What is going on? Woodward Bets back at it here on a Wednesday night. Beer and Scott. And Scott, we got a much busier night of sports. Last night, not much going on, but the best bets 4-2. So that was good. I see you're pretty excited about the Jamaican bobsled team. So we can certainly talk about that. We got coaches getting fined for, stuff that we dealt with when we played football. We'll talk about it all here, but welcome into the show. Again, Woodward Bets, follow us on Twitter. If you're new, welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that thumbs up and helps us out tremendously over there. Subscribe, any podcast feed you may be listening on. Give us that 5-star review. It certainly helps out the show. Scott, my man, how are we doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
Man, I can't complain, Chris. I looked outside. The sun is shining. I mean, we haven't seen that here in a week or two, it seems like. But, yeah, excited to look over all these NFL games. We got these big 4 games. I mean, you can't ask for some better matchups. We got, 13 games in NBA. It was unbelievable. We did see our Pistons. I got to give you credit, Beer. I mean, you flat out called it. I mean, we called the blowout. We called that Curry wouldn't play later in the game. And be damned, it worked out perfectly, as you said. Tell a story and bet on what you believe the story is, how it's going to play out. And sure enough, I mean, we missed the Cade Cunningham assist prop there by a half. I mean, he had that lined up. I don't know how he didn't end up getting that over the finish line for us. But, when I saw that Curry wasn't going to come back in about midway through that third quarter, knowing he was going to sit the fourth quarter, that under – the 24 points there for Curry prop was in the bag, so to speak. So good call on that one there, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's nice when you get those, when the guy's sitting down, he ain't coming back in, boom. You don't have to sweat it out. I mean, he was making me nervous. He got 14 points pretty quick. So, again, telling that story. Is it always going to be right? No, but at least you have rationale. And instead of blindly betting on, I want to bet on what's on TV or, I want to bet on, my buddy told me this. We try to give you educated points on things, and that was one I felt pretty strongly about. Now, the Cunningham one, disappointing for sure. Didn't feel as strongly about that one, but we got the under in the game. We got the Curry under. Michigan rolled. Michigan looked great for sure. So just Cade there let us down. But 4-2. We'll take 4-2 any night of the week. But as I always say, we're only as good as today. So we will have more best bets for you here at the end of the show. But I want to thank the new sponsor of the show, Better Rate Mortgage. At Better Rate Mortgage, family is more than blood. So if you're looking for a new mortgage, come get treated like family. Actually, better with Better Rate Mortgage. Visit mybetterrate.com or give them a call, 248-480-4467 today. So glad to have them here as a part of the Woodward Bets show and team. So go and check them out. Again, mybetterrate.com. So, Scott, anything you want to recap from yesterday? Again, Pistons kind of did what we thought they would. It's a tough game in Oakland, taking on one of the better teams in the league. We've seen the Pistons kind of be like you're in my illness. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. That's the same story with the Pistons here this season. So I don't think anything was surprising there. So recap anything there. I don't know if you caught any of the Michigan game, but again, I did tune into some of it. They look good. As we expected, they're going to start to turn it on. It's just a matter of when. So they cruise to an easy win. So one team playing well, one team kind of struggling as we'd expect.
Yeah, I did catch part of that Michigan game. Hunter Dickinson looked pretty good. Michigan didn't seem to sweat that one at all there. They got out to an early lead and just seemed to cruise to victory there. But that was one of our best bets, so I was pretty happy about that. I did have some money on that as well. And you're right. I mean, the Pistons, that's tough sledding for the Pistons to go out there to Golden State and try to beat Steph Curry and the boys, especially them getting Klay Thompson back. I mean, it looks like to me that, when they get Draymond and all these guys back, I think Golden State's going to be obviously a team to be reckoned with here in the playoffs. But, they're on the slate again tonight there, Chris. They got a back-to-back. So a tough road stint here for the Pistons, especially going out west. We always know that they've had trouble with that. But, yeah, and the other thing, too, I was laughing there, Chris. We were talking about this Jamaican bobsled, which I got behind my whiteboard. Man, I always did like the Cool Runnings movie, and looks like they qualified for the Olympics. since the first time since 1998. So looks like we're going to get a Jamaican bobsled appearance in the next Olympics. So that is always fun to chuckle about those boys getting in there. That's some pretty good entertainment if you ask me.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense when you start adding up Jamaica and bobsled. You know that's obviously the joke here. But while we're here on this topic, first of all, are you an Olympics guy? I'm very patriotic guy, no doubt. I love my country. Scott, I just have never gotten into the Olympics, any of it. It could be winter, summer. There was a time when curling kind of picked up steam and momentum. I didn't mind watching a little bit of that. But I'm not the guy sitting there all day, watching the Olympics, summer or winter. Even when the dream team was playing, yeah, I'd check in, and I love basketball. Just never been an Olympics guy. So is an Olympics something that you get excited about? Do you watch it? Do you tune into it? Am I the weirdo here that doesn't watch any of the Olympics? Because it makes me feel a little bit unpatriotic. Of course, I want our country to do well, but it's just never clicked with me.
For me, I think it's just certain sports. I mean, shit, when we had the pros for hockey in the Winter Olympics, and then we're getting Canada, U.S., and that was some great games. I mean, that was some great hockey. I really like to watch that. I mean, I'm not a fan of like some of the speed skating crap and some of the other stuff that goes on. The sports you only see in the Olympics. I wasn't really all enamored like that, but. The hockey is unbelievable to watch when the pros are in there. I know the pros aren't in there this year, but like the Summer Olympics, stuff like that. I didn't mind some of that, but I mean, I'm just not a track and field kind of guy. I'm just nothing like that. But I mean, I like to watch the baseball. I guess the regular sports, getting to see some of these guys, get out there and get it on for their country. I enjoy watching that. I just like to see how some of these athletes respond, knowing that they're really not playing for any kind of money, Chris. They're just basically playing for pride and for their country. And soccer, stuff like that is what kind of I like to watch. But I think for me, the best thing I ever saw really in the Olympics was the NHL players getting after it. I think that was special.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from these Olympians for sure. So if you're out there, you're listening, you're an Olympian or you love the Olympics, this is just my take. It might be a bad take. It's never really clicked with me. So the other thing I want to ask you about, and I'm sure you have about as much knowledge of this as I do, but I always see these bobsled teams, and I'm sure there is a lot that goes into it. But Scott, when I watch this, it looks like bunch of dudes or ladies hop in a sled. The track is already pre-designed. I know there's skill to it, but man, maybe you know more. I'm just trying to see what is the skill level here in a bobsled, because you kind of go where the path really takes you. I'm sure, again, there's way more to it than I know about, and I haven't taken the time to research it. Maybe I'll do that one of these days, but that doesn't seem, just from the looks of it, to have a whole lot of skill involved. And I know I'm wrong. I'm just wondering if you have any more insight on this.
I mean, I know like the guy in the back's got to have like tree trunk legs. I think Herschel Walker or somebody was on the U.S. bobsled team, wasn't he, one time? I think, to push that sled. Yeah, I think that's pretty important. And I think too, for me, I think if you're driving, I think these guys literally could drive that course with their eyes closed. I think they go over that time and time again. I think that is something that they do work on, but you don't want to slip. I know, there's certain things, you don't want to do in the bobsled, but I'll tell you what, Chris, that'd be fun as hell to fly down them hills like
sure.
That. I mean,
absolutely.
That looks fun, man. That looks fabulous. I mean, that looks like something that I'd like to do. I mean, that looks fun. So, yeah, now those 2-man bobsleds, those look dangerous. I mean, them dudes that looks crazy. I mean, you wipe out in a 2-man bobsled. I mean, that generally don't look like that's fun. But yeah, I do like kind of watching that. I mean, like I said, I think it's more or less, you get these guys with these big, powerful legs. They all hop in there. And I think the only guy that really matters at that point after they get in the sled is the driver. I think you're just supposed to keep your head down and, just go for the ride.
Again, I know there's a lot. It's an Olympic sport. I'm sure there's tons that go into it, but I watch it and I'm like, Okay, they're hopping in the sled and riding down the track. So just interesting that Jamaica's back in there. So we'll talk some Olympics here. If there's stuff we can bet on, Scott. Now we're talking. The degenerate in me
I
comes
hope
out,
so.
and now I'm a lot more interested in some of these Olympic games. But let's talk here about Bruce Arians. I don't know if you guys saw this. I actually hadn't seen this until Scott and Spencer brought it up. But okay, so wham, gives this guy a little hit on the helmet. Scott, you and I played high school football. I think anyone from our era that played got whacked in the head, and that actually is like a lighter. That would have been the lightest hit in the head I would have taken. And my parents would have been in the stands saying, get him. Like, it's just different now. Bruce Arians was fined $50,000 for this. So I don't know what to say because I'm old school, and I know there's people out, no violence, don't hit people, things like that. Obviously, we know Bruce Arians about as old school as it gets. This seems like a bit much to me to fine him for this. This is football. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction here.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I didn't play high school football. I played soccer and hockey there, my man.
Oh, that's right,
But
soccer.
I was a goalie in hockey, and I'll tell you what, hockey was the same way. I mean, if you screwed up on a bench, coach whacking you upside the head, what the hell are you doing? I was backup goalie, so a lot of times on the bench, Chris, my mouth would run, burr, 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 telling the team off that we're playing or getting in somebody's shit while there's a face off. And, I'd get this whack in the back of my head, like, shut up, man, you're going to get us a penalty or whatever the deal was. So, I got that. I got actually sent to the locker room twice because I did get a penalty one time from the bench. So I had to go watch the rest of the game in the locker room. But yeah, I think this is just really a after effect of what happened with Antonio Brown. I just think the NFL caved a little bit there, and they had to do something to Arians. I mean, it's just 2 weeks in a row. He was kind of getting out of line a little bit there. I mean, you can't say, have Antonio Brown saying that he got cut because he wouldn't go in injured. And then, the next week he's walking out there and I heard he's got a torn Achilles that he's walking around on. So, here he's out there. I mean, look, he's 2-3 yards on the field. And look, Adam turns and looks at him, actually pushed him away, was like, get away from me, man. Like, who is whacking me here? I bet you he was probably ready to smack the shit out of some green jersey, but he realized that was his coach. But yeah, I just think it's a culmination of him getting in trouble from all this Antonio Brown press and everything else that he got. So, hey, I'm sure Antonio Brown's kind of laughing about it. That's for sure.
I would love to know what you guys think out there. So if you're in the chat right now, welcome into the show. Let us know your thoughts on this. Should he not have done it? I know the way the world is now, and we shouldn't hit people and things like that. I certainly understand that. I subscribe to the same theory. I'm not gonna strike anybody unless I have to, but it's football, Scott. It just, that seems like he didn't rip his helmet off, or it just seems a bit much. So again, agree, disagree. We'd love to talk about it with you guys or on Twitter. If you want to talk about it there, again, at Woodward Bets. I'd love to hear people's viewpoints on this. And think I'm an idiot? Tell me I'm an idiot and I'm wrong here, but a bit of an overreaction, I would say here. I like me some Bruce Arians, Scott. He's just that old school, fiery, reminds me of like my uncles or my grandpa, the guy that's just going to say and do whatever he wants. And you get to a certain age and it just feels like that's the way it goes. There's grandpa again, whacking people on the side of the head or, saying stuff he shouldn't be saying. So again, sound off on that here in the comment section here on YouTube or on Twitter. But Scott, let's get to some NBA here tonight. I want to get the people some information before the slate tips off here momentarily. So we'll start with a lengthy list of injuries. I'm only going to highlight the bigger names. I mean, we could sit here for 20 minutes and talk injuries. So we'll start with Chicago. No Zach LaVine tonight for them. Lonzo Ball also going to miss. So love DeMar DeRozan tonight. A lot of minutes to go around for guys like Kobe White. Alex Caruso expected back here for Chicago. Damian Lillard will be out once again for Portland. They will also be without Norman Powell tonight. Anthony Davis remains out for the Lakers. We know Kevin Durant out for Brooklyn tonight. So big bumps for James Harden, Kyrie Irving there. No Clint Capella for Atlanta, so there'll be some value at that center spot. Drew Holiday, questionable for the Bucks. We'll see if he's able to give it a go. No Donovan Mitchell tonight for Utah, so big spot there. Joe Ingles expected to get more minutes. Jordan Clarkson gets a nice bump in usage. Paul George remains out for the Los Angeles Clippers. Miles Turner will miss the game tonight for the Pacers. No Kyle Lowry for Miami tonight. No Marcus Smart for Boston. Waiting on news on Malcolm Brogdon. He's questionable, will likely be limited if he did return. Tyrese Halliburton out for the Sacramento Kings. Desmond Bane, Kyle Anderson, and Dylan Brooks all out for Memphis. Tyler Hero out for Miami. So Scott missing half the league here, but the good news is we got 13 games on the docket, so plenty of choices to be made as far as bets go. Let's focus on DFS here. We'll get you some best bets in the NBA coming up at the end of the show, but who are you focusing on here in NBA? Again, Memphis down a lot of guys, a lot of big names missing. Durant, Lillard, Chicago going to be down some guys. Donovan Mitchell out. Who are you focusing on here tonight in DFS?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. I think that is a sign here that we can look at a guy like Rudy Gobert at center. Clarkson, as you already mentioned, I think is the guy we want to look at. But, Chris, I think I'm just going to probably start my lineup with Ja Morant. I mean, that dude has been playing some incredible basketball here lately. I think he's a pretty good spot to start with your team. I think he'd be a guy that I'd look to pay up for today for sure. And another one, maybe some SGA is another guy that I look at for the Thunder. And then maybe our own Pistons, Diallo. I think that is a guy you could play. He's only 5,600 on FanDuel. But another guy, too, Chris, that's been playing some fabulous basketball is Christian Wood. I think Christian Wood is a guy, too, that you should look to have in your lineups tonight. He's been playing some pretty good ball as well. And maybe like a guy like, some value guys. Maybe you could look at, Mike Conley tonight. If there's no Donovan Mitchell, I think you could look at him. Maybe a Luguentz Dort over there for OKC. I think he'd be another guy that you could look at, and maybe even a Sadiq Bey for the Pistons if you wanted to go that route. But for me, Chris, Ja Morant, Christian Wood, and Gobert would be three guys that I'd probably want to start with tonight.
All right, we're going to dig in a little bit to that Pistons game, see what we can dig out of there tonight. As far as DFS goes, I'm going to give you some of the highlights, some of my favorite plays, or again, we'd be here for 20 minutes. I love Jordan Clarkson, big usage bump without Donovan Mitchell. That number jumps to 30%, Scott. So he's a guy that has to pick up the scoring for this Utah team. So I like him. Reggie Jackson without Paul George. They need his offense. Hasn't been shooting the ball great. I think that's kind of part of the reason the production hasn't really been there as far as fantasy points go. But we know this guy's going to jack shots. So I like him. As far as value goes, Anthony Melton with Memphis stands out as a guy that's going to have to fill some of those minutes with no Brooks, no Bane, no Anderson. Davion Mitchell with the Kings, a rookie that I am very high on. Scott, Sacramento really tossing around the idea of trading Darren Fox. We're starting to see a lot of those rumors start to swirl. And I think a lot of that is Tyrese Halliburton, who we know is out tonight. He's been playing fantastic all the way back to his rookie year last year. But this Davion Mitchell kid can play. So it opens up more minutes for them. The latest rumor, either Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, potentially Sabonis there with Indiana could be a part of this deal as well. So wouldn't shock me to see them move De'Aaron Fox out. But back to tonight, more minutes are there for Davion Mitchell with Tyrese Halliburton on the shelf. Higher end of things, you can go to James Harden. I have no issues with that. I actually prefer Kyrie Irving here tonight, Scott. A little bit cheaper. Numbers are pretty close, pretty comparable between Harden and Irving when Durant misses games. So why not save yourself the couple $1,000s? So I really like him tonight. I also really like DeMar DeRozan without Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. I mean, he's been playing, to me, at an MVP level, and we're not paying MVP level prices for him. So really like him tonight as well. Mid-range, I think you go back to Utah with Bogdanovich. He'll have to pick up some of the scoring there. So those are some of my favorite plays. Give you about 7, 8, 9 guys should help you build the basis of your DFS lineups along with the guys that Scott gave you. But 13 games, always a challenge, Scott. I'm sure even with the slate lock in here momentarily, more news to come. So keep your eye on things before you lock those lineups in DFS. But Utah, Memphis, certainly teams that you're going to want to try to get some exposure to here tonight. So let's dig into this Pistons game, Scott. Again, they are at the Sacramento Kings. I mentioned Davion Mitchell, a guy I really like here tonight. Looks like they're about 7-point underdogs here total, right around 222. Anything standing out in addition to the spread, to the line that you want to jump on here tonight?
I mean, the last 2 times the Pistons played on the second half of a back-to-back, Chris, they got smoked by 30-plus points. So, Pistons haven't been faring too well in those type situations. So, I don't know if we're getting I don't know how good Sacramento is. I mean, they obviously their record is not all that great. They are 18-28, 10 games under. Pistons are 10-33. So it's not like they're playing a juggernaut here tonight. But I still think that they should struggle tonight against the Sacramento Kings. I'm kind of concerned about them, especially being out there on the West Coast trip and traveling as they are. But Chris, I think you got to always look at the opponent here anytime the Pistons are on the second half of back-to-back. It just seems like they've struggled here recently in those situations. So I think I'd be looking at Sacramento tonight.
Yeah, the number's kind of moving even more in favor of the Kings, 7.5 at some places here. So, if you can grab that 7, I certainly would look at that. But some of the props here, again, very similar numbers to what we've seen. Cade Cunningham, points sitting at 17.5. That points, rebounds, and assists number. What do we got on Cade tonight? 27.5. So thoughts on that? Again, we talked yesterday. We left it alone. We didn't hit it in the best bets. I liked his assists a little bit more. Came up a little bit short. Any interest in that 27.5? Because again, he's a guy that can contribute across all the different categories here. If you want to go a little lower, Saddiq Bey 23.5. Any thoughts on either of those points, rebounds, and assists bets there?
Well, the one thing, we were concerned about yesterday was the blowout. I mean, what are we going to have in the fourth quarter? Who's going to get minutes? Are these stars and starters going to get these minutes? Now, I don't necessarily expect a 30-point, 40-point blowout by Sacramento over the Pistons. So I do think you should get a full minutes here. But I still think the Pistons could easily lose by 10. And, I think Cade could get there for sure. I just hope that, the Pistons don't get down 20, 25 points, and then you don't end up seeing Cade in the fourth quarter. But for me, I don't think the blowout, I just don't see as many paths to the blowout as I did yesterday.
One guy I think the numbers are a little bit too low on, and you worry because it's on the other side here. I know people are looking for Pistons info, but watching the game, I want to get you a little something. So I do like the Kings here. But Marvin Bagley, Scott, on the other side. Now, it's concerning he didn't play in that last game, but he's been starting to play more minutes. I like the matchup here for him against Detroit. His point prop sitting at 11.5, and you're getting even odds on it, plus 100 here on FanDuel. So, a matchup with some of the boys down low here with Detroit does not scare me off of that number. Darren Fox sitting at 21.5. Again, you worry about the blowout with some of that. As far as the local guys, Saddiq Bey 15.5, his points prop. Diallo at 13.5. I think I'm going to leave them alone. I think I'm going to jump on this Bagley one, Scott, to over 11.5. You don't have to factor in the blowout as much here. We were worried about Curry getting to his number at 24, 25, whatever it ended up being yesterday. Bagley, 3 quarters, you can get 11.5. So I think that one stands out. I don't see anything else I really want to jump on here in this Pistons game tonight. Anything else for you before we move on to some NFL talk?
I'm ready for some NFL. Like I said, I think I'm just going to roll with Sacramento tonight and just play the numbers that are there. I mean, the numbers are there. Pistons been struggling in these situations, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it.
All right, let's open the can on some NFL here. Wednesday is always our initial look at the slate. We know this is a shorter slate here, a fun weekend of games, 4 games. We kind of talked a little bit about each game yesterday, seeing if there was any spreads, totals we wanted to get out ahead of. Let's see if anything has changed here, Scott, on these numbers. So Cincinnati, Tennessee, still sitting at 3.5. Totals moved down a little bit to 47 here. Kind of different than I thought it would be here, though. We're seeing a lot of support both on the over and on Tennessee here. I thought Cincinnati would have a little bit more support in their corner coming off that win, but looks like people are on the Titans here, which makes sense. The number 1 seed in the AFC. You're likely getting Derrick Henry back. We still don't have 100% confirmation on that, but sounds like he should be back in that lineup. So let's dig into this matchup here a little bit more in depth as far as fantasy goes, and betting goes. Open this thing up. Cincy, Tennessee. What do you got?
I mean, this game here, Chris, is the only divisional road game or only divisional game where these two teams did not meet during the regular season here. So the Bengals 5-3 road record or going into Tennessee here have been 7-2 at home. But for me, I just think this here is can the Titans stop the pass and can the Bengals stop the run? I think that's going to be the question on both sides of the ball here. I mean, Joe Burrow all of a sudden has become the NFL new little darling here, new little superstar, and obviously with Jamar Chase. But I mean, just kind of looking at these games, I mean, this game here, I just think, you know, if Cincinnati gets out front, I think Tennessee is going to struggle to keep up with Cincinnati. If Tennessee is able to run the ball, which I understand Derrick Henry may come back. Now we'll see what kind of load he gets. But if Tennessee gets out front and is able to control the ball and run the ball, I think Cincinnati is going to be in trouble. You look at here. I mean, against wide receivers, we know Tennessee has struggled mightily. They're 31st in the league in giving up points to wide receivers, 23rd against quarterbacks. So it does not bode well going into a game where you got to face a guy like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. So for me, like I said, it's just going to be a matter of who can control this game. I mean, the Titans, can they stop the pass, and can the Bengals stop the run? So I think it'll be interesting here to see how this one plays out. But I mean, the Titans, I think this is going to be a funnel type game, Chris. I mean, the Titans are number 1 against the running backs. They have been all season. At home, no running back has rushed for more than 50 yards on them since week 3, and only 3 scores all season with the run has happened there. So, Chris, I think this game here is just going to be a game where Cincinnati's going to want to throw, and we'll see if that defense can get to them. But if they can stop Tennessee's run game, I think the Bengals have a pretty easy path here to victory.
Yeah, those are the premier matchups for sure. I mean, when you're looking at these teams, there's 8 teams left. So kind of breaking it down to just the remaining teams, the Titans allow the most production to wide receivers, quarterbacks, the third most out of these teams remaining. But like you said, very good against running backs and tight ends. So yeah, Uzama hit the end zone last time, but you know, maybe he's one we want to shy away from. Mixon as well. As much as I like Joe Mixon, this matchup certainly says, look to the passing game. You know, Burrow's been fantastic. Plenty of ways you can stack him as well. You know, Chase is kind of the big headline name. I think T. Higgins, awfully interesting here, Scott, coming off a week where not only was he chalk, he didn't really do much of anything. So people may be afraid and hesitant to pull that trigger. He's also been so much better at home this season. So I like the bounce back for Higgins. You're never going to get no ownership on anybody. You're looking at just getting discounted ownership. And I think that's what you get here with T. Higgins. So on the other side, I agree with you. We'll see if Derrick Henry's in there. Bengals allow the most fantasy points to this position with these remaining playoff teams. Also have struggled against tight ends. So Berkser's kind of been a hit and miss. They kind of rotate guys through there, but that could be a cheap tight end to look at. But Derrick Henry, certainly a guy that I'm okay loading up on here. Now looking at FanDuel DraftKings, it looks like FanDuel more centered on the one-day games. You know, the Saturday is their big one. The Sunday only is their big one, where DraftKings has a $3 million contest with all 4 games. So plenty of ways to play these games. Scott, do you have a preference? I generally play them all. Do you have a preference on when it gets to a weekend like this, Saturday only, Sunday only, or playing all 4 of the games in one?
I play them all too, Chris, but I don't mind playing the we all want instant satisfaction. I hate, when DFS to me is daily fantasy sport. Get it over in one day. But, to go through the whole weekend, yeah, that's a lot of fun. I do like that. But like you mentioned, DraftKings has got the better contest for that. And then FanDuel did focus on the 2 games. But I'll get in there. I generally play FanDuel more than DraftKings. So I'm sure that I'll get in there and mix it up. I'll probably actually mass enter the Saturday one, Chris. Probably max it out where I'm going to be looking at probably 100 teams or so, and then I'll just mix up the wide receivers, and then try to keep myself to a core, kind of keep it a little tight, and then mix and match some of these other spots, and with the receivers and maybe a few different running backs. But yeah, I think for me, Chris, I'll probably have more of my money on the just Saturday only, and then just the Sunday only.
I love that we have the different options, and so sometimes they both kind of do the same thing. And again, last weekend worked out well. You had your pick of the litter. Do you want to play, all of the games at once? Do you want to play Saturday only, Sunday only, Monday showdown? And this feels the same. And they both have contests with everything. Just the focus on DraftKings is the 4-gamer. They have the 2-gamer, so that you can go there. The focus on FanDuel is the Saturday only, the Sunday only, but they have the 4-gamer as well. So tons of ways to play these games. I just thought it was interesting that they each took a different focus, which I like. Gives us more variety here. So I'll be playing on both, any action we can get. We're running out of weeks of football, Scott. Sadly, it seems like the season just kicked off. Seems like Woodward Bets just kicked off in conjunction with the start of the season. And, here we are closing out the NFL season. But let's move to our next game. Yeah, I mean, it's flying by. It's insane. But Saturday night, Green Bay, San Francisco. This one on the move a little bit, Scott. We checked in yesterday, and it was 5.5. Green Bay up to -6 in some places. Now, some are -105s, but you got some -110, some -112s out there as well. So a little opposite of what I thought. I thought San Francisco would get some support here. The total still lingering 47 at half spots, 47.5 at the other. So what do we do with this one? Obviously, the biggest news came out to Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not certain if he's going to be able to play, and I think that has a little bit to do with this line movement here. We know he's been dealing with some injuries on and off here. Is that what's affecting this line here? If he's unable to go, now dealing with that shoulder injury, Trey Lance, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, big fans of Trey Lance, but I think asking Trey Lance to step in here in Lambeau Field in a playoff atmosphere, and you've barely played at all. I mean, this dude, even in college, only played one game over the last couple seasons. I think that'd be a tough draw here. So I liked the Niners yesterday. I did not end up going with them. I waited it out, was going to grab them at 5.5. But, Scott, if it's Trey Lance, I'm feeling pretty damn good about my Packers here.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, your Packers are healthy. I mean, they are probably one of the more healthier teams in these playoffs. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers' silly little toe is feeling better. But I mean, without Jimmy G, they're in trouble. I mean, you look at this game, Packers at home. I mean, they should be a lock to hit 30 points, Chris. I just don't see how they're going to be able to keep up, that being San Francisco with that. There we go. We got we got the picture of the toe here. But I mean, you look at it here. San Francisco 22nd against wide receivers, 11th against the quarterback here. But I mean, the 49ers defense is good, but they have allowed 2 or more passing scores in half of their road games, Chris. They gave up a couple 300-yard performances. And being at home here, I just think the Packers should have a chance to put up the biggest margin of victory here of the weekend. I just think San Francisco at this point is just going to be overly matched. I do like the only guy I really like is Deebo Samuel. I mean, he's half their offense. But for me, I just think the Packers are just waiting here. 8-0 at home, Chris. I mean, just mark it up. I actually like the team total for the Packers as well in this game. But, yeah, give me your Packers here. I know you're a little bit more pessimistic of me, but I'll take them at home against a team traveling across the country, coming off a big victory here in Dallas.
Yeah, I like that Green Bay team total. Sometimes, you want to grab the over, and one of the teams that doesn't do their part. I think we know Green Bay is going to score points. I think San Francisco, with Jimmy G at least, can put some points on the board. So we are seeing a lot of support coming in on the over. on this game. I wanted to dig into the box score. The last time these two teams met, we talked about it yesterday in a thriller, 30-28 to Green Bay back in September. Rodgers, 261, 2 touchdowns in that game. Aaron Jones, 82 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And we know Dylan's a lot more involved now. So tough to really feel too good about either of those guys. I think they're certainly in play on a 4-game slate, but Aaron Jones, not the workhorse that he was earlier in the year. Davante Adams, Scott, 18 targets in that game, 12 receptions, 132 yards and a touchdown. So clearly a matchup they felt good about. On the other side, Garoppolo, 257 and 2. Nothing really on the ground. I think Mitchell did not play in that game. This was still when Trey Sermon was a thing. As far as the passing game goes, touchdowns from Juszczyk and Ayuk. Kittle went for 92 yards in that one, and Deebo Samuel, 10 targets, but just 5 for 52 in that game. So outside of Adams, not a ton of standouts here in this one. And you mentioned, the Niners defense, very good. Receiver, the one spot that they have struggled against, 4th most fantasy points allowed of the remaining playoff teams. So Adams, with his target share in Lambeau, he plays so much better at home. Certainly one of the guys that we want to focus on. As far as San Francisco goes, the best way to attack this Green Bay team is with the tight end. So I don't hate Kittle on the other side, Scott. We saw him do well in that first matchup here. I don't know what I would do if it's Trey Lance. We love his rushing upside, but I think he would just put a cap on all these receivers. If it's Garoppolo, I like Kittle. Take advantage of the matchup. The way they're utilizing Deebo Samuel, I think you got to look at him as well. But Adams and Kittle stand out as the premier options for me. So anything else that you didn't hit on here before we move on to Sunday's action?
No, I just think, that's obviously some big news here with Jimmy G. If you hear that, don't be afraid, as we mentioned, to get in there and make some bets before, the news really drops and it's solid. A lot of times you hear rumblings, if you believe that, maybe a guy's going to be out. When there's smoke, there's fire too, Chris. He's obviously hurting. So, is he going to be the same, type player that we've seen here? So him being injured, I think that definitely is a big factor here in this game. But I just think the Packers are too good. The story, the 49ers here is great. Sure, they did beat a terribly coached not Packers, but I'm thinking Mike McCarthy Packers Cowboy team. But yeah, they're not going to run into a shitty coach team this week and get all those extra opportunities that they got last week. So give me the Packers here all day long. And my favorite bet at this point, Chris, as I mentioned, is the Packers team total over.
Yeah, I like it. You're talking me into it. My pessimism's going away. You still can get a 5.5 at BetMGM. I would think if it's Trey Lance, Scott, this thing probably goes to at least 7. So if you can still get him under a touchdown, don't hate that. Did find one quote, Jimmy Garoppolo, they asked him, what's bothering you more, the shoulder, which is the new injury, or the thumb? We know that's been bothering him. He answered yes. So clearly both things still bothering him. Now you think about playing in the cold, and if you can give it a go, you obviously give it a go. It's the playoffs. Your season's on the line, but I don't hate jumping out ahead now on this one, knowing this information on Garoppolo. So, hopefully the people yesterday didn't jump all over the Niners and now kind of switching our tone here. But injuries will certainly do that. But that Green Bay team total, I like that call as well. All right, Sunday, we got the Rams and the Buccaneers. Line is still sitting at 3 at most places here in favor of Tampa, down to 2.5 at PointsBet, though. So this one depends on the side you're on. You want to be on the right side of that 3 points total. Mostly 48.5s out there. FanDuel sitting at a 48. So, Scott, break this one open. This one should be fun as well. The Stafford lovers love to see it. The haters certainly not happy and expect him to run into a wall here against Tom Brady. So what are we doing with this one to open up Sunday?
I think this one here is really tough for me to just cap on this one, Chris. I think this game, these two teams are both good. I would have thought at the beginning of the year that this probably would have been the NFC Championship game. We're just getting it a week early here. But, they did play in week 3, as we mentioned, 34-24 here for the Rams, but which was in Tampa. But for me, I mean, the running game here is something that the Rams did rely on last week. We saw Akers come back, and man, he looked really good. He looked fresh, but we know the strength of that Tampa defense is that run defense. So are they going to be able to run? Are they going to be able to work off play action? I mean, we didn't really even see any big weeks last week out of these Rams receivers. Yes, OBJ had a pretty decent game, but not what we've seen in the past. I mean, Cooper Kupp, generally is lighting up the scoreboard. That obviously didn't happen. I mean, they got out pretty quick lead there, but, Cardinals just struggled. It was like the Rams just basically got to play, kind of like in a shell. They didn't have to really show too much for me, but I'll be looking forward to this one here. I'm not really sure how I'm going to go in this one here, but man, I just don't want to get sucked in to Stafford here. I mean, you got Stafford versus Tom Brady. I'm betting against Tom Brady at home has not been a profitable endeavor during this guy's career. He's just been the bookie killer. But I mean, you look at these teams. Tampa Bay 21st against wide receivers. So I think this is where they're going to have to focus on. I think you're going to have a big game from Kupp, Deshaun Jackson, and then also OBJ. So we'll see what goal. Actually, Deshaun Jackson was he was pretty big in week 3. So I that's what I was looking at here. But I think these wide receivers are going to have a big game, Chris, for LA to stay in this one here with Tampa. But I don't know here. My dilemma, though, Chris, is if the Rams score a bunch of points, can the Buccaneers keep up? I think that is my worry. That's my fear. I mean, I just think with them missing some of their key pieces here, you wonder at what point in time is this going to really affect them, and could this be the week?
Yeah, you got to worry about the offensive line here with Tampa Bay. We saw Tristan Wirfs kind of leave the game, try to re-enter the game basically on one leg, and this guy's arguably been one of the best linemen in football since he entered the league 2 years ago. Is he going to be able to go? I mean, you're talking about Aaron Donald, you're talking about Von Miller. I mean, this Rams defense is legit, Scott. So the more I dig into this game, I hate betting against Brady. I'm with you. As a Packer fan, I've lost plenty of money, betting against Tampa Bay with my Packers, but I'd like the Rams here. And as far as DFS goes, I don't disagree with you. The wide receiver position has been the weakness, but as of late, Tampa has been not as strong against the run. So if people are going to ignore what we saw out of Cam Akers last week, the worry is how much are they going to give him as far as touches go. Is he going to be more of the feature guy? We saw him start to take over more of that role. Sony Michel has been great as well. Henderson kind of an afterthought now, but if people are going to shy away, I don't mind attacking with the running game here. Tampa's kind of tightened it up over the last 4 weeks. Second fewest fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position of the remaining playoff teams. They've allowed the most fantasy points to running backs here, Scott, over the last month. So let's not forget about Cam Akers. Other side of the ball, this is a tough matchup. The way to attack the Rams still is through the secondary, even with Jalen Ramsey back there. Receivers, they've allowed the second most fantasy points. So Mike Evans, we know, is going to get a huge target share. You can take your shots with the Tyler Johnson. He kind of disappointed last week, but I don't hate going there. But that Rams running game is certainly something that I'm interested in. Now let's look at the last matchup. This one, again, earlier in the season, Rams won at 34-24 in LA. Remember, they got out to that big lead. Brady ends up throwing 432 yards, just 1 touchdown in that game. Nothing on the ground for Tampa Bay. 10 targets for Mike Evans in that game, 106 yards. Still had Chris Godwin at that point. He had a decent game as well. As far as the Rams go, Stafford, 343 yards and 4 touchdowns, Scott. So a matchup that he can certainly thrive in. Sony Michel was the workhorse that day, 20 carries, 67 yards, 12 targets for Cooper Kupp leading the way. You mentioned Deshaun Jackson, now a member of the Raiders, but he did have a big game. So, not discounting Deshaun Jackson, but, maybe a Van Jefferson now. Maybe it's, the deep threat can get behind this secondary. So I don't hate that. We've seen Odell Beckham kind of work back in and be a big part of this offense. So I like the Rams here, Scott. The more I'm talking about it, I like the money line here. I think the Rams go in there and win this game.
I'm sure a lot of the NFL folk here would probably like to see the Rams win. I mean, I'll be honest. Tom Brady's the GOAT. I love watching him, but do we want him in another Super Bowl? Do we want another Super Bowl matchup that we saw last year? I mean, I bet on the Rams at the beginning of the season. I said at the beginning, we know how the movie ends. Stafford will get to the Super Bowl. I mean, it just seems like it's just what will happen to us Lions fans? I mean, it just seems like it's this right there. I can smell it already. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting here though. Like with the Bucs, especially with these injuries. I mean, Mike Evans, their main guy, he's going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey. So are we going to see who's going to step up now? Is it going to be that running game? Is it going to be Gronk? I do like Gronk's props as far as catches and to get in the end zone as an anytime touchdown. We know he loves to go to him in the red zone, but Chris, I mean, Jalen Ramsey's no joke. So we'll see how much he's going to spend on Mike Evans if they're able to move him around in different formations to try to keep him away from Jalen Ramsey. Usually Jalen Ramsey doesn't move around himself. He'll just take whoever is lined up there. So we'll see how they decide to match up Evans with Ramsey. But I think that is something we're really going to have to pay attention to. We'll see if Johnson or somebody like that steps up for the Bucs. But yeah, I think this Rams team here, I mean, they're clicking. They seem to be playing well. Stafford, I mean, this last game, they really didn't have too much of anything to worry about in that game, as we mentioned, and neither did the Bucs. But I mean, just looking too, like I mentioned yesterday, LA, here they are. They're playing in the first game on a Sunday, and they played Monday night. Now they got to travel across country all the way down to Florida. So the NFL definitely did not do the Rams any favor as far as scheduling.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as I don't disagree, some of these secondary options, if they do decide to take Mike Evans out, we've seen Evans struggle with premier cornerbacks, mostly with New Orleans. He tends to struggle. I forget the guy's name, but he
Lattimore.
tends to have issues. Yeah, Lattimore. So, if they do decide, they've used Ramsey more as like a hybrid safety linebacker type rather than, covering one guy. But, that may be the way that they choose to go. So then you're counting on some of these other guys. Now there's questionable tags on Brashard Perriman. We'll see if he's able to give it a go. Didn't do much in that game, just 3 targets against Philadelphia. Cyril Grayson, Scott, was a guy that really was starting to come on. Did not play last week. If they can get him back, that would be a guy that you could look at as well. He's dealing with a hamstring injury, though. We know how much of a pain those can be. Scotty Miller, just 1 target. So, maybe a Cameron Brate even. He's a guy that kind of stepped up, saw some more targets in that passing game last week. 3 targets for him. So not a ton, but, a cheap price tag here on DraftKings. So just trying to dig a little bit deeper is what you need. It's similar to what we talked about with NBA last night is you need to find some off-the-radar guys that's not too far off the reservation, or you're going to need to leave some money on the table. It is the easy ways to get different. We'll talk more ways to do that as we talk about these slates coming up. So we'll talk about the Saturday game Saturday morning on our show, 9 a.m. Make sure you set an alarm for that. And Sunday morning, we'll break down these 2 Sunday games even more in depth, see if anything changes. We'll have much more clarity on injuries and who's in the lineup. But, Scott, let's finish up. In my opinion, the game of the week, Buffalo, Kansas City. And, Scott, we talked yesterday. We both like the Bills, and hopefully this is one people got on. And we said, this one I could see ticking down in favor of the Bills, and we have that now. Kansas City is still -2 in some places, but they're down to -1.5 here on FanDuel, DraftKings, and BetMGM. So exactly played out like we said it would yesterday. Hopefully got on the Bills money line a little bit early. That one now +110, the highest that we can find, and mostly +105s here. So the support coming in on the Buffalo Bills, to no surprise. Looks like a lot of bets on Kansas City, but a lot of money coming in on Buffalo right now. So anything changed for you here on as far as that front goes? And then let's dig into this matchup for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, Chris, I'm really looking forward to this one. For me, this is the game here that I do want to watch. I think Buffalo has, I think they got it all going for them, Chris. I think Buffalo here is in a great spot to pull off the upset here. And if you ask me, Chris, I think the better defense is definitely with sides with the Bills. So I am going to be looking at loading up on Buffalo here. I mean, man, how can you ignore what Josh Allen's been doing? There's going to be hardly any weather to deal with. It's going to be like 38 degrees, no wind, from what I'm understanding. So, I mean, the Buffalo Bills offense has been peaking. They've been scoring almost 27 plus points almost every game. They actually, the Bills too, have, what would they be? Let's see here. They beat the Pats here, 33-27, and then they beat the Bucks as well. So, I mean, they've been playing pretty good on the road. But, I mean, for me, 315 yards, 3 scores to Josh Allen in Week 5, the last time these these teams played. So, man, I just think Josh Allen is a nightmare. He's just can run the ball. He can run the ball really well. And I just think here Kansas City'd have to play a perfect game to beat the Bills. I think the Bills would have to shoot themselves in the foot more times than not with turnovers and whatever else and maybe penalties to have a shot here. I mean, who wants to bet against Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead? I mean, I know that doesn't sound like something that we would have wanted to do even when the season started. But, man, I just think Buffalo, they've been there, right? They've taken their lumps. I think they're a team ready to move forward. And I think the torch is going to be passed to Buffalo. And I think Buffalo is going to be in line here to own the AFC. So give me Buffalo. I just don't think the Chiefs have the defenses to hang with these Bills.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. It's something you said there. They've been here before, and they have been here before, literally played this game last season. And we always talk about earning your stripes in the playoffs, and that one is still sticking with them. They came into Kansas City earlier this season and put a whooping on this team. And maybe this is a hot take, maybe it's not. I think Buffalo the better team. That's plain and simple. I mean, the Chiefs, sure, they've been on a roll. They've been the premier team in the AFC and maybe in the entire NFL here of late. But that offense, it's starting to get it going, but it does not seem like the unstoppable force it's been over the last few seasons. Take nothing away from them. They've been good. I think Buffalo has what it takes on both sides of the ball. So you mentioned 315 and 3 for Josh Allen, also tacked on 59 rushing yards and another touchdown. So that is the spot you can attack this Kansas City team, Scott. Nobody remaining in the playoffs allowed more fantasy points to quarterbacks than the Kansas City Chiefs, even over the last couple weeks. If you break it down over the last 4, most fantasy points allowed there, most fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. So plenty of ways to pair him up. In that last matchup, it was big games by Dawson Knox. Went over 100 yards with a touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders, 2 touchdowns in that game. So, Scott, they got it done, and they held Stephon Diggs to 2 catches for 69 yards, and they still put 38 points on the board. As far as the Chiefs side of the ball, Mahomes ends up throwing for 272, 2 interceptions in that game. Nothing on the ground. Mahomes was the leading rusher there, 61 yards. Big target games from all of Kelsey Hill and Hardman. All had double-digit targets in that game. Touchdowns for Kelsey and Byron Pringle there. So I like this matchup for the Buffalo Bills a lot. As far as the Kansas City side, how we want to attack the Buffalo Bills, that's tough, Scott. This team literally fewest fantasy points allowed to quarterback, fewest fantasy points allowed to wide receiver, fewest fantasy points allowed to tight end, and the second fewest allowed to running backs. Now, when you break it down into the last 4 weeks, running backs, they've allowed the 4th most fantasy points. So, maybe you feel good about Kansas City running backs, but then I ask you, who are you playing? Do they get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back? Darrell Williams, is he healthy? Has Jerick McKinnon taken control of this job? Is Gore an afterthought? So any thoughts on a potential 4-headed monster at running back here for Kansas City?
Yeah, I think Kansas City, I mean, they're going to have to run the ball a little bit here to keep that pass rush of Buffalo's off their back. I mean, Buffalo's defenses, as you mentioned, is fabulous. And I've been watching, a lot of these NFL shows, and everybody mentions at the back half of that defense for Buffalo how great it is. I mean, obviously you mentioned they've not given up any points to wide receivers, but yeah, I just don't think Mahomes is going to be able to stand back there and zing it all around. I think they're going to have to dink and dunk. They're going to have to run the ball, and we'll see if they're able to get these guys involved. But I just don't think a guy like Hill, we obviously know Hill's been hurt a little bit here with his heel, and I just think they got their work cut out for him here, Chris. I just think, the recency bias and how good the Chiefs have been these last few years, I think people are just going to say, and I think that's why You look at the spread. We always say it's 3. So on a neutral field, at this point now, they're saying that the Bills are 2-point favorites, a 1.5 favorite on a neutral field, and I think I would agree with that. I think the Bills are a better team. I'm all over the Bills. I want every bet I can get on the Bills, as we were saying yesterday, money line, everything else. Give me the Bills. I'm going to keep hitting it. And as we mentioned, I don't even mind the alternative lines. Maybe Buffalo minus 6.5, as we mentioned. I mean, that's plus 330 you could look at. Maybe a Buffalo minus 9.5. Here we go.
There we
Beastie.
go.
Boom. Boom. Yep. We're going to get some Beastie action on these tables here one of these days. But, yeah. You know what? If Buffalo makes the championship game, we got to get Beastie to do one of these maybe on a Sunday show or one of the days before they play. We'll get over to that studio, Chris, and we'll get Beastie to jam through a table. But man, I just think Buffalo's ready, and I think they're going to get it done.
I agree. So the latest, the best line. So if you want the points, Buffalo, there's still some plus 2s you can attack at PointsBet, and looks like at Caesars. And the best money line we can find right now, plus 110 at Bet Rivers. So I think this one is not done moving, Scott. I think we could get closer to an even pick 'em here, especially if the support keeps pouring in on the Buffalo Bills. The sports books are going to have to balance this thing out somehow, and that's usually them moving the point spread a little bit to try to get some action on the other side. So I'm with you all over Buffalo. I like those alternative spreads as well. I think Buffalo could win this one by double digits. We've already seen it once. Yes, it's the playoffs, but again, they've been here. They know what to expect here. Weather is not a concern. I give them the edge on both sides of the ball here. So both of us all aboard the Buffalo Bills train, and would love nothing more than to see our boy Beastie crashing through a table here in support of the Buffalo Bills. So, Scott, any final thoughts here? So, again, we'll be back, Saturday, Sunday, talking more about these games. Not the last you're going to hear about it. We'll continue to look at these spreads, see if there's anything changing, any injury updates as we close in on Saturday and Sunday. We will continue to update you here throughout the week. But any final thoughts here? Should be a fun weekend of football. I mean, you really couldn't design many better games. The Pittsburgh didn't sneak in. Philly didn't sneak in here. We really have the premier matchups that we're looking for on this kind of weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, couldn't ask for that. I mean, I think if we went back maybe a month ago and we said, these are the teams that should be left, I think we would probably be spot on from what is sitting here left of the 8 teams. So really looking forward to see how some of these shake out. And I mean, and then we get the championship weekend. I think that should be interesting as well. Now, that's a little crazy. Now, we don't want Beastie to be doing anything like that, jumping through the fire. I mean, damn, these Buffalo fans are crazy. Like, what is wrong with you people up there? Like, what is in the water up there? I don't understand. Like, these dudes are fans. Now, I get, Chris, they don't have any other sports, right? I mean, well, I guess they got the Sabres. But, I mean, damn, man, like, what is wrong with you people up there? I mean, I've actually, back past business, had to spend some time up in Buffalo. A lot of nice people up there. It's a blue collar town, similar to Detroit. And you know what, Chris? I'm just always curious, as we said, what the hell would be going on around these parts if the Lions were this good and about to win Super Bowls? God knows what we'd be doing around here. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what would be happening. But you know what? Good for these Buffalo fans. I think everybody's ready. And if you know a Buffalo Bills fan, I think he's going to be a happy camper when it rolls around to Monday.
Yeah, let's hope so, because you and I are putting a lot of support here behind the Buffalo Bills. So we certainly want that to come through here for the people. But Scott, let's get to some best bets here for tonight. Again, probably very NBA heavy here. 13 games on the docket in the NBA. Some may be underway or close to already. So let's get the people some stuff to bet on here. Best bets Wednesday night. What do we got?
Well, for the first one here, I'm going to look at the Miami Heat minus 9.5 against Portland. I just think Portland, with all these injuries, Miami at home, I really like how they've been playing lately. And then one other one here I got in the NBA as well. I got 2 for you. I'm also going to roll with the Dallas Mavericks minus 3.5 against Toronto. I just think Toronto is going to be a little bit overmatched there, and I like how Dallas has been playing. So I will take the Miami Heat minus the 9.5, and I will take the Dallas Mavericks minus the 3.5 at home.
Snaked my Dallas pick. I like the Mavericks a
Nice.
lot. Oh, he always snipes me on one. So I guess we'll include that on the card. When we both tend to have one, like Michigan last night, it tends to do well. So I'll leave that one on there. I got a bunch I like tonight, but we'll give you the best of the best. So Dallas, certainly one of them at minus 3.5. I like Minnesota here tonight, Scott. I know I've supported Atlanta plenty of times. I still think they're playing a little bit below their heads. I think they're better than what they've shown, but we have to be impressed by this young Minnesota team playing with a lot of confidence right now. So I think they go into Atlanta and win. The spread, 1.5. I don't mind a money line play, so we'll just do that. Minnesota money line to go along with my Dallas play there, minus 3.5. And then, sorry, Pistons fans, Scott laid out some of the numbers earlier. They have not fared well in back-to-backs. I think Sacramento, a team that's shown they have the ability to blow people out, even without Tyrese Halliburton. I like the Sacramento Kings here at minus 7. And I'm going to include that prop we talked about on Marvin Bagley as well, over 11.5 points at even odds here on FanDuel. So Dallas minus 3.5, Minnesota Timberwolves, a money line for me. I think they get it done here in Atlanta tonight. Sacramento minus the 7 against the Pistons and Marvin Bagley over 11.5 points at even odds. So what's that? 7 best bets on the board. I guess we count the one twice since we both gave it. So 6, 7, whatever you want it to be. So hopefully we stay hot there. But Scott, final thoughts for the people here Wednesday night. What do you got?
Nope. Just make sure you guys, we appreciate you listening. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We want to thank our sponsor, Better Rate Mortgage, for sponsoring the show. And, hey, let's get us some lunch money so we can I got to get back to eating here, Chris. That little COVID bug kicked my ass and lost like 20-some pounds on my belly here. I got to get it back. I mean, the beach ball is gone there, buddy, and now it's like a little softball now. I mean, I gotta get back to eating here, buddy. So we got to get us some lunch money.
Absolutely. So again, Better Rate Mortgage, thank you to them for sponsoring the show. Again, make sure you're getting over there. And family, more than blood, if you're looking for a new mortgage. Come get treated like family, actually better with Better Rate Mortgage. Visit them at mybetterrate.com or call 248-480-4467 for all of your mortgage needs. So we appreciate their support. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. Remember, as Scott said, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. That helps us out a lot here. Subscribe to the channel as well. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Woodward Bets and leave some reviews. If you enjoy what we do, you enjoy the bets. The bets are winning you money, bringing you the show free of charge. All we ask is for your support. Help grow the name, help grow the brand, and we greatly appreciate it. So for Scott, for our boy Spencer, behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck with your bets tonight, and we'll catch you tomorrow.